Good afternoon. What a great-looking group on a somewhat dreary-looking day in Milwaukee. This is so wonderful that all of you are here. We are most grateful. My name is Joseph Kearney, and it's my privilege as Dean of Marquette University Law School to welcome you to today's Pro Bono celebration, as we may call it. This afternoon, as annually, we welcome into our Pro Bono Society a substantial number of Marquette law students, or for a term near at hand for some of them, a number of future Marquette lawyers. We are welcoming or inducting more than 100 law students this year. Of the, more precisely, 109 inductees, 25 are first-year students, 40 are second-year students, and the largest number, 44, are students about to graduate. Each of these individuals has provided at least 50 hours of pro bono work, a concept that we define quite rigorously, and a quarter of them have contributed 120 or more hours. Kudos, truly, and thank you to all of you. We have done an admission or induction ceremony for more than 25 years. For the Pro Bono Society was established during the tenure of my predecessor, the late Howard Eisenberg, who was dean from 1995 until 2002, and whom we still warmly remember. Before we turn to the individual names, we have an annual tradition, itself now more than a decade old, as part of this ceremony. We call it the Posner Pro Bono Exchange. Through this, we honor the memory of the late Gene Posner, a member of our class of 1936, who was a lawyer, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and as well characterized by his family, a supporter of all things Milwaukee. It is right that we should honor his memory today because much of our work in this sphere has been supported by a multi-year gift of the Gene and Ruth Posner Foundation. Among other things, the Posner Foundation substantially supports the work of our Office of Public Service, which is so ably led by Assistant Dean Angela Schultz and Director Katie Mertz, with support provided by Maggie Klatt and Erica Schmidt. Gene Posner remained an active force in Milwaukee until his death in 2005 at the age of 90. I myself felt it a privilege to get to know him in my early years as dean and to gain a sense of his commitment to the work of lawyers, Marquette lawyers in particular, in helping individuals solve their problems, whether these individuals had resources or not. Today, as often, we are joined by Gene Posner's grandson, Josh Gimbel. Josh is a lawyer with Gimbel, Riley, Guerin, and Brown here in Milwaukee and leader of the Posner Foundation. Josh, his family, and the Posner Foundation are great champions of the law school. And so, Josh, if you are willing, and dare I say you would scarcely be a Gimbel if you were not, I'm hoping that you will share a few words in memory of your grandfather. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a great crowd today. This is really exciting. My grandfather would be so excited to see all of these great young, soon-to-be Marquette practicing lawyers and getting honored here today for your pro bono services. Like Dean Kearney said, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He owned a bunch of businesses. He owned real estate. He had a candy company in Florida for a while. I liked that a lot. That was a good place to go. He was also a philanthropist. He started this foundation in the 60s, and he always loved Milwaukee, and he always wanted to give back to the community. But what he really was, more than anything else, was a lawyer. He was a lawyer who practiced law in addition to the other things he did, and he provided services to many people who couldn't afford those services. And he knew that that was so important. That's why he started to support Marquette's endeavors in this area of supporting pro bono work. You should all be so proud of yourselves for what you've accomplished. A number of faces look familiar to me. I've worked with a number of you at the Justice Center on my monthly tour of duty there, and I find all of you very engaged and passionate in what you're doing. A couple of years ago, Justice Liu from the California Supreme Court spoke to us at the Exchange, and he was a brilliant speaker, and he mentioned that there's one legal aid lawyer for every 20,000 indigent people in this country. So if you think about that, for that lawyer to meet with all 20,000 indigent people who need legal representation, it would take them 24 hours a day for 2 years, over 2 years. So there's just such a great need for all of you when you graduate to do what you're doing now and have shown that you want to do, which is to give back to those who can't afford it. So I would just applaud all of you on this day. I would applaud Katie and Angela and everyone from the Justice Center that I work with on all the great work they're doing. And thank you so much for being here, our honored guest, and Derek Mosley. So without further ado, I move on to that. But congratulations, everybody.
This is not a ritual. It's just that considering myself to be a full-service dean, I want to make sure that things are well set, please. I've never been more nervous at a Marquette Law School event than I was a moment ago as I was pouring the water there. Josh, we are truly so grateful for Marquette Law School's continuing connection with you and your family, and I emphasized the generous support of the Posner Foundation in introducing you, which you lead, and yet it's very meaningful to us and our students that you also lead by example. You may call it a tour of duty, but it's volunteer service, and it's inspiring. So we will proceed to the Posner Pro Bono Exchange itself. Our guest this year is Laura Klein. She is the Pro Bono Program Manager for the United States Department of Justice, a position in which she has served since 2002. In 2022, the program joined the Department of Justice's newly reestablished Office for Access to Justice, whose mission is to ensure access to the promises and protections of the nation's civil and criminal legal systems for all communities. Ms. Klein is a native of Cleveland, Ohio, and a graduate of Dartmouth College and the Ohio State University College of Law. I could tell you a good deal more about Ms. Klein's background, awards, pursuits, etc., but the idea, of course, is to hear from our guest directly, if in an interlocutory sort of way, else it would not be an exchange. So with that, I will hand it over to Derek Mosley, a Marquette lawyer and director of our Lubar Center for Public Policy Research and Civic Education, adding, as I do, only my personal thanks to Ms. Klein for joining us today. Thank you.
So, Laura, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So I always start for this exchange because I think it's important that people know the reason people get into law in the first place. I tell this story because I didn't come to law like most other people come. I think I told you this. Put this down. Like most people, I didn't know any lawyers growing up. I didn't grow up too far from Dean Kearney on the south side of Chicago. And the only reason I became a lawyer, I think I told you, is I saw Blair Underwood on LA Law. And I said, wow, there's black lawyers. I could be a lawyer. So let me ask you, why the law?
Well, I actually was drawn to the law after I was drawn to being in the government. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to work in government. I felt that government was an agent for good, an agent for positive change, and that's what brought me to the law. I was a government major in college, and in looking around at the different government jobs that I felt would have an impact, being a lawyer was at the top of the list. And so that's where I decided, okay, if I'm going to have a career and I'm going to work in the government, I'm going to do it by being a lawyer.
Perfect. Why the DOJ?
Why not the DOJ? To me, DOJ was the top pinnacle place to be a government lawyer. There's a wide range of ways to be a lawyer at DOJ, but I knew coming out of law school, if I wanted to work for the government, that if I could get into DOJ, that's the place I wanted to be. I started off as a litigator because I felt like I wanted to earn my street cred. I wasn't 100% sure what kind of lawyer I wanted to be. I wanted to be at DOJ, I knew that. But what kind of lawyer would I be at DOJ? And I thought, well, if I have litigation experience, I can do a lot of things from there. And that turned out to be very, very true because I haven't been a litigator for an extraordinarily long time. But that's where I started.
Where in the DOJ did you do work? 'Cause the DOJ is such a breadth of things that you can do. What departments were you in? What did you do while you were there? Well, you're still there, but what did you do while you were a litigator?
I started in the department's civil division in the Office of Immigration Litigation through their honors program. In order to come straight out of law school, you have to go through the honors program. And when you apply for the honors program, you get a choice of what components of the department are actually hiring. And the civil division was one of them, and the man who came to interview me was from the Office of Immigration Litigation. And so I told him, well, that's the best job. I really think that what you do is fascinating. And I got the job. I wasn't, particularly drawn to immigration law itself. I knew, like I said, that being a litigator seemed to be a good place to start, but that's where I was able to get the job, and I was able to be at DOJ, so that's where I was. I did not love immigration law, particularly on the government side. And that's something that many of you will learn when you take your first job. You think you know what you want to do, and then you start doing it. And you think, no, this isn't exactly what I want to do. So I actually left the department briefly, and I thought, okay, I have immigration experience and I have litigation experience, and I'm going to have to parlay one of them into another job. So I became a litigator at another federal agency, at the Federal Election Commission. But I missed my home. DOJ is truly my professional home, and even though I'd only been there a few years at that point, one thing we like to say, or maybe we shouldn't, but at DOJ, the lawyers are king. The place is run by lawyers. It's all about legal work. You go to another federal agency, the lawyers are a pain, right? The people doing the policy, doing the work of that agency, it's usually the lawyers saying, don't do that. Show me that before you do it. But at DOJ, lawyers are king. And so I really was like, I miss my home. And so once again, I parlayed my experience to go back to the department, but when I went back into a policy position. While I had been at DOJ originally, I moonlighted a little bit while I was doing the immigration cases. I moonlighted for a policy office. And that's something to think about when you take on your first legal job. You don't have to only do what the job they give you is. You can volunteer to do additional things and learn about other things that your own employer does. And so by doing that, moonlighting for the policy office, I was doing judicial vetting. When I left and wanted to come back, that office is where I went. And so I did policy work for a couple of years in what is now known as the Office of Legal Policy. And that is where the Pro Bono Program was born.
So let's talk about that. How did the Pro Bono Program get started?
So the program has been around since 1996. Prior to that time, it was never prohibited or unauthorized for federal government attorneys to do pro bono work, but it felt like it was because it wasn't organized. We do have a lot of ethical restrictions on what we can do and how we can do it. And without a program in place, everyone was on their own to figure it out. And that pretty much meant nobody was figuring it out. So at the time, Janet Reno was Attorney General, and she decided we need to have a program so that federal government attorneys, DOJ attorneys, can do pro bono, and let's make it easier for them to do pro bono work. our current Attorney General, Merrick Garland, was working for Attorney General Reno at the time, and he was tasked with shepherding this through, making this happen. They did meet with some internal resistance, so they just did what anybody does. They went over their heads, and they went to the President of the United States, who issued an executive order saying that all federal agencies should be encouraging their employees to do volunteer work, and it specifically noted pro bono legal work and federal government attorneys. It also designated the Department of Justice to coordinate the government-wide effort so that all agencies would be in compliance with that order. That was in 1996. DOJ issued the first federal agency pro bono policy, designated a program manager, set up a program and a committee. We then invited all of the other agencies to join what became known as the Interagency Pro Bono Working Group so that we could help them do the same thing. That group still exists today. It's the steering committee for the overall federal government pro bono program. And we now have over 50 agencies that actively participate.
So this is the part that's interesting to me. How do you get attorneys to participate? How do you make them aware that you have this opportunity? Because the government's huge. There's, like you said, there's lawyers in all different types of government entities. How do you get them to participate or be aware of it?
Well, we really actively use our representatives from all the agencies. It's like a web. We create the opportunities, we do the networking, we bring in the legal services organizations, and then we push out all of those opportunities through our contacts. We have a number of different mechanisms that we use. So, for example, at the Department of Justice, each component of the department has its own pro bono rep, its own pro bono coordinator. So when our central program comes up with opportunities, we push it out to them, and they post it on their intranets, or they push it out through emails. Same thing with all of the agency representatives. All the agencies have pro bono coordinators and written pro bono policies now. So, Department of State, Department of Interior, HHS, DOL, they all have representatives, and many of them now have their own, like DOJ's, have their own internal pro bono committee, so they can push things out even further. We've also launched branches of our program in other cities over the years. So it started in Washington, D.C., which makes sense because that's where all the agency headquarters are, policies are made. And we have more federal government attorneys in D.C. than anywhere else. But over the years, we have fielded inquiries from people in other places. I want to do pro bono work, what do you have for me? So we have launched branches of our programs in, we have New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Denver, Dallas, and Atlanta. Hopefully I'm not missing anybody. And we're in development in a couple other cities as well. And so in those cities, we have an interagency committee on the ground. And we build our networks and liaisons with the legal services organizations in those cities, again, so we can branch out and push the opportunities out even further. And then most recently, very exciting for us, in October of 2023, we launched what we're calling the DOJ Pro Bono Portal, which is an online platform that goes to, at some point, it will go to all DOJ attorneys. We're rolling it out state by state, but it's already here in Wisconsin. And local legal services organizations will post their pro bono opportunities on the portal, and every week, DOJ attorneys get an email automatically in their inbox with a list of current opportunities in their state. Wow. So we're working on lots of different techniques, but it certainly is an ongoing effort. It will never end in order to reach all of the attorneys and let them know what they can do.
So can we put this into perspective real quick? How many attorneys did you mention are part of this portal?
Well, the portal is only for the Department of Justice.
Okay.
And eventually it will be almost 14,000 attorneys.
How many now?
We have rolled it out to about 9,000 so far.
And your office is how many people?
In the pro bono program specifically?
Yes.
3. You laugh, but we were 2 a month ago. We just got our 3rd attorney assigned to the program, and the 2nd attorney has only been working for me for 1 year. So for the first 20 years, it was me.
Wow, that's amazing. So tell me what kind of work is available in the portal.
Absolutely.
Or not even in the portal, just in general.
In general, because again, the portal is only for DOJ attorneys right now, and that's just because DOJ's budget paid for it, so it's for DOJ. We're hoping that it becomes so successful that at some point other agencies might incorporate it into their budgets as well, but we have to prove how well it works first. But the types of opportunities that federal government attorneys can do is very broad. What we can't do is anything that involves the federal government. Might seem kind of obvious, but that is our biggest conflict of interest. It's actually a statute, a criminal statute. If you violate it, big troubles. So we work really hard in the program to make sure none of our attorneys cross that line. Basically, it means we can't do any pro bono activity in which the federal government has a direct and substantial interest. So the things that would be off the list would be immigration work, Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, anything where you see a federal agency is either the adjudicator or the opposing party. But what this leaves available is many, many things. We do a lot of housing work. Probably the #1 type of case that we place is a housing case. Eviction or housing conditions matters. We also do family law, handling custody, adoption, child support. We do domestic violence work, helping people get civil protection orders. We do lots and lots of wills and estate planning work and powers of attorney. So basically anything that's state and local work is fine for us to do. And we look for a wide range, anything from brief advice to limited representation to full representation.
So why is it important for attorneys to do pro bono work?
Well, I think the people in this room probably already know this, but I'll tell you what I think. So I've distilled it down to 3 reasons that I give to our attorneys every time I do a presentation about pro bono. #1 is the need. The need for pro bono legal assistance in our country. Again, I'm preaching to the choir, but it is enormous. The Legal Services Corporation's most recent report showed that 92% of low-income Americans' legal needs go unmet every year. That's almost all of them.
Yeah.
It's staggering. And it's actually higher than it was pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, it was 86, really low. But, I mean, the need is the primary reason. And I also tell our attorneys, there's lots of volunteer work you can do. There's lots of volunteer work everyone can do. There's only a certain kind of volunteer work lawyers can do. That's why you should do pro bono work.
And that was my next question. Why are lawyers perfectly trained to do pro bono work?
Well, a lot of pro bono work, you have to have a law license to do. And so, your neighbor who's a doctor, they do pro bono work too, but they do the medical pro bono work. And anyone, can volunteer in a soup kitchen, but only we can give legal advice. Only we can help someone navigate a courthouse. We're actually in the process of putting together some promotional materials for our pro bono program at DOJ and the federal government pro bono program. And part of that endeavor, we interviewed one of our pro bono clients and asked her, what did it mean to you to have a lawyer? And she said, it was everything. I couldn't do it. And this is a very bright woman. She's a teacher. She said, I couldn't do it by myself. That's why. It has to be a lawyer.
What do you get out of it?
Out of pro bono work or out of running the program?
Let's start with pro bono work.
Every time I meet with a new pro bono client, I am nervous. And I like to tell my volunteers that as well. I remember the last time I was at a clinic, we went around the room. Everyone says, oh, it's my first time here. I was like, oh, it's my 500th time here. But the new ones would say, and I'm terrified. So when it finally did get around to me, I said, well, I've been doing this for 20-some years, and I'm terrified. Because it's hard, okay? Pro bono work, it's important, it's rewarding, but it's not easy, okay? It's not spooning out soup. You are meeting someone for the first time. They are telling you really personal things about themselves, and then they're looking at you like, what's the answer? And you probably don't know it off the top of your head. But even with that, every single time I leave the clinics, I feel good. I feel like even if I didn't give someone the answer they wanted, even if I couldn't help them in the way they might have wanted, I helped them. I know I helped them. Sometimes the answer is you don't have a legal issue. You shouldn't spend your time, your resources, your energy, your angst trying to find a legal answer to this problem. And that helps them. It's not what they expected to hear coming to a legal clinic, but it helps them. So why do I do it personally? It's a little selfish. I love the way I feel when I do it.
So my last question for you is, what's your advice for young lawyers coming out who are getting ready to embark on their own, outside of the law school, in pro bono work?
Well, I have two pieces of advice. And the first would be, if you learn anything from my career, where you start has nothing to do with where you end up. So if you have specific goals in your mind about what you think you want your legal career to be and look like and where you want to be in a certain period of time, don't cling too tightly to that. When I came out of law school, if you had said to me, oh, you know what, you're going to be running a federal government pro bono program for over 20 years, I would have laughed, because there was no federal government pro bono program when I graduated from law school. So where you could end up might not exist today. So don't cling too tightly to preconceived notions about what you think your career should be. And the other is, keep up the pro bono work. And it's not because I'm not saying that only because we need people doing pro bono work. I'm saying it because it's going to be a part of your career that will be unlike any other part of your career, unless you happen to be a legal services attorney. Thank you if you're doing that. But if you aren't, pro bono work connects you to your legal community and to your bigger community in a way, no matter what kind of job you have, it will be different. Pro bono work will ground you. Pro bono work will introduce you to people you wouldn't otherwise meet. Pro bono work will scratch an itch you didn't know you had. So yes, do pro bono work because it's the right thing to do, but do it for yourself for that reason also. You'll be a better lawyer. You'll have a more satisfying career if you keep doing pro bono work.
I appreciate that. Can we all give a round of applause to our guest, Laura Klein? Laura, thank you so much. All right. Are you ready?
Okay.
Thank you both. So much of education involves learning from others, and truly that requires that we have examples or exemplars, and Laura Klein certainly is. I thought in your exchange there were any number of different insights, but the one that especially struck me was your sharing with us that even after all these years, when you are meeting with a new client, or at least in a new context, you're nervous about it, and that you would embrace that and welcome it is inspiring. So deep thanks to you for being here with us. Let's now turn our attention squarely to our inductees. Not yet Marquette lawyers. They have nonetheless already distinguished themselves in their commitment to some of the best ideals of the legal profession. In particular, even while students, even while concerning themselves with courses, including internships in the community, and despite the frequent need to find some remunerative work, even in these circumstances, these individuals have engaged in pro bono service. The students whom we honor this afternoon have met some rigorous criteria, as I have suggested. Let me now specify them for you. They have provided at least 50, and in some cases 120 or more, hours of work that has been A, not for academic credit or compensation, B, supervised by a licensed attorney, C, primarily legal in nature, and, so this is all in the conjunctive, if you will, D, in service of the indigent, those who otherwise lack access to justice, or a nonprofit whose mission is to serve such individuals. The projects in which today's inductees have served are extensive. This group has performed 8,981 hours of service, and otherwise impressive also. Here are a few examples. 22 of today's inductees have been involved with legal action of Wisconsin. Among them, some have focused on Legal Action's Eviction Defense Project to help identify whether a defense to eviction is available to a tenant, or whether an agreement perhaps can be reached with the landlord. Others worked with students enrolled, this is still in the legal action context, in the Wisconsin Technical College system to help eliminate barriers to employment and housing by sorting out and cleaning up criminal and eviction records, recovering driver's licenses, addressing consumer debt, bankruptcy, or unemployment insurance needs. And still others focused on the time-intensive and detail-oriented preparation of Chapter 7 bankruptcy petitions. That's just the legal action front. 7 of today's inductees have worked under attorney supervision to draft answers to questions posted by low-income Wisconsinites to the American Bar Association's Free Legal Answers virtual legal advice clinic. The Free Legal Answers platform is administered by Wisconsin's Access to Justice Commission. The program's administrator reports to us that the vast majority of new volunteer lawyers with the project over the past 4 years have been recent Marquette law graduates. How great is that? 8 of our inductees spent part of their winter break 2 academic years ago in service to Afghan nationals at Fort McCoy. These students helped the visitors to Fort McCoy put into writing personal experiences surrounding the collapse of the Afghan government, and in many instances, their persecution by the Taliban, the first step in seeking asylum or other legal status that would support the Afghans staying in the United States. 11 of our inductees participated in a Wills Caravan trip that took place just last month. The trip, led by the Indian Law Office at Judicare Legal Aid, was designed to reach members of Wisconsin's Indian tribes to develop and complete estate plans. The Milwaukee Justice Center, to which Josh Gimbel has had occasion to refer, this is a collaborative project of the Milwaukee County Circuit Court Clerk's Office, the Milwaukee Bar Association, and Marquette Law School. The Milwaukee Justice Center continues to thrive, with 64 of today's inductees having been involved with the Family Law Forms Clinic, the Expungement Pardon Clinic, parenting conferences, the Civil Legal Helpline, and adult guardianship forms preparation. And finally, just in terms of my list, not to exhaust the examples, our own Marquette volunteer legal clinics. Almost 80% of today's inductees have been involved with the MVLCs. Our brief legal advice clinics have expanded over the years to include not only in-person services at the Veterans Service Office, the House of Peace, the United Community Center, the Milwaukee Justice Center, but also the mobile legal clinic, and more recently still, the remote clinics on Zoom that have now served people from 57 of Wisconsin's 72 counties. The MVLCs have also expanded topically to encompass the general civil and family legal advice clinics, estate planning clinics, and even advice for nonprofits and small businesses. Again, all of this has not even been an exhaustive list. Students also are involved in pro bono work with the survivors of domestic violence at Sojourner Family Peace Center, have partnered with Catholic Charities to offer a citizenship clinic, and have volunteered with the State Bar in any number of other ways. Altogether, of the 202 students expecting and expected by us as well, to graduate next month. Approximately one-half will be members of the Pro Bono Society as inducted over the course of their years here. You are, individuals who have given at least 50 hours of service. How remarkably impressive. Please know that we are so grateful, very admiring of you. Dean Schultz, Director Mertz, and I will proceed with recognizing each individual's induction into the Pro Bono Society. So, without more, let us welcome into the Pro Bono Society the following Marquette law students. And we will figure out the logistics as we go.
They're amazing. They're amazing.
I can't wait.
Right. Okay, so our first row, I'll have you stand up, and you'll actually walk this way to receive your certificate. And then each row after that, you will just follow when it's your turn. Our first inductee today is Katie Adler. Katie has given her time to Sojourner Family Peace Center, the Milwaukee Justice Center, and the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
John Babington.
John's service has included writing responses for Wisconsin's Free Legal Answers, the Milwaukee Justice Center's Civil Legal Helpline, and the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic's Eviction Records Cleanup Clinic.
Morgan Bandy.
Morgan has given her time to the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic, Civil Legal Helpline, and the Legal Aid Society of Milwaukee.
Abigail Barnett.
Abigail's service has focused on the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, both remotely and in person.
Andrea Bishop.
Andrea has shared her time with the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic and Sojourner Family Peace Center's Domestic Violence Injunction Clinic.
John Bolden.
John has split his service between the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic and the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the House of Peace.
Elise Brunell.
A member of the Student Advisory Board, Elise has completed over 120 hours in service to every Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic, in addition to estate planning clinics and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Adult Guardianship Clinic.
Madison Bushman.
Madison's pro bono service has been with the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic, Legal Action's Student Legal Aid Project, and most recently with Judicare's Legal Aid Wills Caravan Trip.
Leah Carter.
Leah's service has been to various locations of the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Kara Conley.
Kara has split her time between the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic and the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Tyler Crass.
Tyler has volunteered with the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics at the Milwaukee Justice Center and United Community Center, where he focused on immigration law.
Jacob Dalton.
Jacob has focused nearly all of his pro bono work with Legal Action of Wisconsin's Eviction Defense Project.
Ananda Deacon.
Ananda's involvement has included remote and in-person Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, as well as participation in the American Bar Association's Free Legal Answers Project.
Nolan Dean.
Nolan's service has been primarily to the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, with additional involvement at the Family Law Forums Clinic.
Peter Derdzinski.
Peter's service has been with the Milwaukee Justice Center's Expungement Pardon Clinic, Civil Legal Helpline, and with Judicare's recent Wills Caravan.
Twinkle Dutta.
Twinkle has given her time to the Civil Legal Helpline, Legal Action's Bankruptcy Petition Clinic, and to the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Jody Ekman.
A member of the Student Advisory Board, Jody has surpassed the 120-hour mark through her service at every Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic.
Malin Airsom.
Malin has surpassed 120 pro bono hours through service to the Milwaukee Justice Center in various of its clinics. She also participated in the service trip to Fort McCoy.
Mitchell Etheridge.
Mitchell's time has focused on the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, both in person and remotely.
Madeline Farrell.
Madeline has given all of her pro bono time to the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the United Community Center.
Joshua Fleming.
Joshua has made a consistent commitment to the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic and has also been involved with the Wills for Heroes project.
Andrew Flood.
Andrew has given over 120 hours of his time to the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office.
Sophia F.E.
A member of the Student Advisory Board, student Sophia has given over 120 hours of her time to numerous Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, but mostly the United Community Center.
Hannah Frontier.
Hannah has participated in the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, as well as the Milwaukee Justice Center's Civil Legal Helpline and the recent Wills Caravan trip.
Mallory Galt.
Mallory has given time to numerous Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, including remotely and in person.
Haley George.
Haley has volunteered over 120 hours through consistent participation at the Milwaukee Justice Center across all of their different clinics.
Abigail Hines.
A member of the Student Advisory Board, Abigail has given over 120 hours to the Milwaukee Justice Center Family Law Forms Clinic and various locations of the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic.
Catherine Hungerholt.
Catherine has served in the Family Law Forms Clinic and Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics. She's also contributed to the Wills for Heroes project.
Brittany Huff.
Brittany focused on service with the Montana Innocence Project.
Ella Humblett.
Ella has made a very consistent commitment to the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forms Clinic.
Marky Jacobson.
A member of the Student Advisory Board, Marky has given over 120 hours of her time to the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Nick Jerchevsky.
Nick has given his time to the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics as well as to the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forms Clinic and Legal Action of Wisconsin's Bankruptcy Petition Clinic.
Emily Juneau.
Emily has participated in the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics and joined the service trip to Fort McCoy.
Kenya Kaldunsky.
Kenya has given her time to Legal Action's Bankruptcy Petition Clinic, the ABA's Free Legal Answers Project, and to the Wisconsin Association of School Boards.
Benjamin Karbowski.
Ben has volunteered over 120 hours in multiple pro bono clinics, including most of the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, Legal Action's Bankruptcy Clinic, Adult Guardianship Forums Clinic, and even the recent Spring Break Wills Caravan trip.
Alan Keller.
Alan has also provided 120 hours of volunteer time with the Expungement Pardon Clinic, remote and in-person Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, Citizenship and an Asylum Clinic, Wills for Heroes, and the recent Spring Break Wills Caravan trip.
Matthew Curlin.
Matthew has given his time exclusively and consistently to the Milwaukee Justice Center's Civil Legal Helpline.
Michael Klein.
Michael's involvement has been with the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, the Civil Legal Helpline, the Mobile Legal Clinic, and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forms Clinic.
Jory LaRosa.
Jory has split her time between the Milwaukee Justice Center's Civil Legal Helpline and the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Kaylee Lemery.
Kaylee has given her time to the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic, to Legal Action's Unemployment Insurance Clinic, and to the Intellectual Property Clinic at the Public Library.
Sarah Lundgren.
Sarah has focused her efforts at multiple locations of the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Eliza Luvianos Mendez.
Eliza's pro bono work has included the Expungement Pardon Clinic, Wills for Heroes, and the recent Spring Break Wills Caravan trip.
Nicole Mannion.
Nicole's work has focused on the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, both remotely and at the Milwaukee Justice Center.
Nancy Martinez Ramirez.
Nancy has given her time to various locations of the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, as well as the Asylum Clinic and Legal Action's Bankruptcy Petition Clinic.
Abigail Montalbo.
Abby's focus has been with the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forms Clinic.
Taylor Munt.
Taylor's given her time to the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forms Clinic and Legal Action of Wisconsin's Student Legal Aid Project.
Tara O'Donnell.
Tara has focused her involvement on the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the United Community Center.
Emily O'Fallon.
Emily has given her time to the Adult Guardianship Forums Clinic, Legal Action of Wisconsin's Student Legal Aid Project, Wills for Heroes, and the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic.
Joshua Peterson.
Joshua has split his time between the Legal Action of Wisconsin Bankruptcy Petition Clinic and the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program.
Andrew Petrosky.
The majority of Andrew's pro bono involvement has been with the Marquette Voluntary Legal Clinic at the United Community Center.
Daniel Pope.
Daniel has given his time to the Marquette Voluntary Legal Clinic at the United Community Center, the Estate Planning Clinics, and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic.
McKenna Prebick.
McKenna volunteered with the Milwaukee Justice Center Family Law Forums Clinic and the Sojourner Family Peace Center Domestic Abuse Injunction Petition Preparation Clinic.
Joseph Radish.
Joseph has volunteered over 120 hours with the Eviction Records Cleanup Clinic and the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office.
Caitlin Reardon.
The majority of Caitlin's pro bono involvement has been with the Wisconsin Free Legal Answers Project.
Julius Rohr.
Julius has volunteered over 120 hours, with the majority of time spent at the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic.
Grady Rosen.
Grady has split his pro bono time between the MILA Naturalization Clinic and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Civil Legal Helpline.
Derek Rush.
Derek has volunteered with the Milwaukee Justice Center's Adult Guardianship Forums Clinic and the Civil Legal Helpline.
Sonia Savlani.
Sonia has split her time between the Marquette Voluntary Legal Clinic at the United Community Center and remotely on Zoom.
Travis Sawyer.
Travis participated in the Fort McCoy Afghan Refugee Winter Break Trip, Legal Action of Wisconsin's Bankruptcy Petition Clinic, and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Expungement and Pardon Clinic.
Caitlin Schmidt.
Caitlin has volunteered with the remote Marquette Voluntary Legal Clinics, the Milwaukee Justice Center Civil Legal Helpline, and the Sojourner Family Peace Center Domestic Abuse Injunction Petition Preparation Clinic.
Grace Shaw.
The majority of Grace's pro bono involvement has been with the Milwaukee Justice Center's Civil Legal Helpline.
Ayana Sims.
A member of the Student Advisory Board, Ayana has given over 120 hours of service to various locations of the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics, the Expungement Pardon Clinic, the service trip to Fort McCoy, and to Wisconsin's State Public Defender's Office.
Marie Cinco.
Marie has volunteered with the Marquette Voluntary Legal Clinics, the Estate Planning Clinics, the Milwaukee Justice Center Family Law Forums Clinic, and the Kids Matter Minor Guardianship Clinic.
Jacob Score.
Jacob has focused his work at the Family Law Forums Clinic at the Milwaukee Justice Center.
Candace Subcheck.
Candace has shared her time with the Eviction Records Cleanup Clinic, the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the United Community Center, and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic.
Mia Stevenson.
Mia has split her time between the Milwaukee Justice Center Family Law Forums Clinic and the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Latsami Sisovan.
Latsami has volunteered over 120 hours with the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the House of Peace, as well as the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic.
Mark Tomlinson.
Mark has shared his time with the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic.
Matthew Torres.
Matthew has split his time between the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the House of Peace and the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic.
Annika Van Rossum.
Annika gave her time to the Greater Wisconsin Agency for Aging Resources.
Stephanie Verbakel.
Stephanie has volunteered with the Citizenship Clinic, Wills for Heroes, the Asylum Clinic, and the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the United Community Center.
Allison Wendler.
Allison has volunteered with both the Milwaukee Justice Center Family Law Forums Clinic and the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic for small businesses and nonprofits.
Kathleen Williams.
The majority of Kathleen's pro bono involvement has been with the remote Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics.
Ryan Wolf.
Ryan has shared her time with the Asylum Clinic, the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic at the United Community Center, the Milwaukee Justice Center's Family Law Forums Clinic, and the Public Defender's Office.
Madeline Wargel.
Madeline has volunteered at the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic locations, including the House of Peace, United Community Center, and the Milwaukee Justice Center.
Alexander Zanatti.
Alexander has shared his time with Wills for Heroes, the Milwaukee Justice Center Civil Legal Helpline, and the Milwaukee Justice Center Family Law Forums Clinic.
Zachariah Zierson.
Zach has volunteered over 120 hours with the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinic, the Milwaukee Justice Center Family Law Forums Clinic, the Estate Planning Clinic, and the Wills Caravan Spring Break Trip. Thank you, everyone. So good. I'm standing aside for you.
My goodness, it's interesting to recall how this event has unfolded and developed over the years. Of course, originally we were in a different building and without the support yet of the Posner Foundation. And then when we got that wonderful support and developed the idea of the Posner Exchange and made it a vehicle to bring to town someone who's a national leader with respect to public service or pro bono work. That was in 2010, our last year in Sensenbrenner Hall, and that was a real advance. And then the pandemic came. There was a rough moment with one of the pro bono exchanges because Mike Goucher, Derek's predecessor, my very able colleague, apparently did not have great internet in Fox Point. And so as he was interviewing, was it Mike Gonring at the time? The internet went out, and I told you, I demonstrated with the water. I'll do anything as dean. And so for a few tense moments there, people were holding their breath across the internet as I led us stumbling through the Posner Pro Bono Exchange. But the reason I recall the pandemic is not to recall that glory of mine, but rather because, if memory serves, that's where we came up with the idea of not simply having the students' names read as they walked across, but also a brief elaboration on what each of them did. And as with so many things that are born out of necessity, the necessity was to make the event on the web a little bit of a warmer event. It just seemed a good idea to keep. And so we've done it every year since. And this was so meaningful to me to hear all of the organizations with which you have volunteered. It certainly gets at what Laura Klein was saying in terms of how great the need is out there. And when we all know that intellectually, to be sure, but to have that brought home by the examples that you have given us of your personal service at organizations, and in some instances, places where there wasn't really a formal program, but nonetheless, you were able, working with my colleagues in the Office of Public Service, to fashion an approach. So I really am humbled to be part of this occasion. Beyond that, there really is little else to say in this room, except thank you. Thank you to Laura Klein and to Derek Mosley and to Josh Gimbel and the Posner Foundation. Thank you to the law firms and the lawyers who partner with us. Hundreds of lawyers in this community. Many of them are alumni and many of them not, volunteer in pro bono projects through their firms or individually. To say that we could not do it without them is to perhaps place the emphasis in the wrong place. We are grateful to them for letting us be part of their work. And thank you again truly to our students. On behalf of the Marquette Law School community, including not only those of us who work at the law school and whom you've been seeing every day for at least a year and in some cases several years, but also on behalf of the ranks of Marquette lawyers more broadly, we really do admire the pro bono work that you have done even while students. We look forward to your work as Marquette lawyers. Our Office of Public Service will remain a resource to you as you incorporate pro bono work into your career, as we hope going forward. And more immediately than that, I hope that everyone will join us outside this room in the Zilber Forum for a reception. Immense thanks for what you have done and for being here today. Thank you.